When did you realize cutting someone off saved your life? The text message came in at 2:47 a.m., and even though I'd blocked Maya on everything else, she'd somehow gotten a new number. Again. Asterisk Sarah, please just talk to me. I know you're awake. I can see you're online. Asterisk. My hand shook as I stared at the screen, that familiar knot of dread forming in my stomach. Even after 6 months of no contact, seeing her name still made my chest tight. But this time, instead of the overwhelming urge to respond and explain myself like I had for the past 15 years, I felt something different. Anger. Pure, clean anger. I screenshot the message, blocked the number, and added it to the folder I'd started keeping on my phone. Maya's harassment now contained 43 screenshots of her attempts to reach me since I'd cut her off in March. The folder my therapist, Dr. Chen, had suggested I keep as evidence of exactly why I'd made the right choice. It had taken me 28 years to realize that my childhood best friend was slowly destroying my life. The revelation hadn't come all at once. It started 3 weeks after my engagement to David ended, when I was crying into a pint of Ben and Jerry's at my kitchen table, trying to figure out how my life had fallen apart so spectacularly. First, David had cheated on me with someone he claimed to have just met at a bar. Then, my supervisor Janet had called me into her office with complaints about my unprofessional behavior that made no sense. Apparently someone had told her I'd been talking badly about clients and showing up to work hungover, neither of which was remotely true. In the span of 2 weeks, I'd lost my fiancé of 3 years and nearly lost my job at the family services agency where I'd worked for 5 years with a spotless record. Maya had been right there through it all, of course. Bringing me tissues, telling me David was trash, that Janet was probably just having a bad month and looking for someone to blame. Maya had always been there for every crisis in my life, I thought. The constant friend, the reliable shoulder to cry on. But that night, scrolling through old photos on my phone and feeling sorry for myself, I'd stumbled across a picture from David's birthday party 6 months earlier. There, in the background of a group shot, was Maya talking to David by the kitchen counter. Her hand was on his arm, and she was leaning in close, laughing at something he'd said. I'd stared at that photo for 20 minutes, my brain trying to process what I was seeing. Maya had barely spoken to David that night, at least, that's what I remembered. She told me she was going to leave early because she had a headache. That's when I started digging. I went through every photo from the past year, looking for Maya in the background. David's work happy hour in January, there she was, talking to him by the bar while I was in the bathroom. My colleague Mike's wedding in October, Maya and David dancing while I was outside taking a work call. The company picnic last summer, them sitting together on a bench, deep in conversation. How had I never noticed? How had I been so blind? But I wasn't blind anymore. And as I sat there at 2:51 a.m., looking at her latest attempt to worm her way back into my life, I realized something that made me smile for the first time in months. I was finally free. The next morning, I did something I hadn't done in years. I called my sister Emma without checking with Maya first. It sounds insane now, but for the better part of a decade, I'd gotten into the habit of running social plans by Maya before making them. She always had an opinion about who I should spend time with, usually wrapped in concern that felt loving but left me second-guessing myself. Are you sure you want to drive all the way to Portland to see Emma? You've been so stressed with work lately. Or didn't Emma seem kind of judgmental last time? I just don't want her negativity affecting you. Somehow, I'd internalized her voice so completely that I'd started making excuses to my own family without her even asking. But that Tuesday morning, I dialed Emma's number while making coffee, and when she answered with a surprised Sarah? Is everything okay? I realized how long it had been since I'd called just to talk. I'm actually not sure, I said, settling into my kitchen chair. Can I ask you something weird? What do you think of Maya? The pause that followed was so long I thought the call had dropped. Sarah, Emma said carefully, are you asking because you actually want to know, or because you want me to tell you she's great? I want to know what you really think. Another pause. Then, I think Maya has been isolating you from our family for years, and I've been waiting for you to notice. The coffee mug nearly slipped from my hands. What do you mean? Remember Dad's birthday 3 years ago? You were supposed to come, and then suddenly you had to cancel because Maya had some crisis. But I saw on her Instagram that same night that she was at some concert downtown. When I mentioned it to you later, you got defensive and said I didn't understand how much she was struggling. I did remember that. Maya had called me crying about her job, saying she needed me. I'd driven straight to her apartment with wine and takeout, ready for a night of consolation. But when I got there, she'd seemed fine. Said she was feeling better and maybe we should just have a quiet night in. We'd ended up watching Netflix, and she'd spent most of the evening texting someone and giggling at her phone. There was also Christmas 2 years ago, Emma continued, and Mom's retirement party, and Jake's graduation. There was always some reason you couldn't make it to family stuff, but never any reason you couldn't drop everything for Maya. My chest felt tight. Why didn't you ever say anything? I tried, Sarah. We all tried. But every time anyone in this family expressed concern about Maya, you'd shut down and accuse us of not understanding your friendship. After a while, we stopped trying because we were afraid of losing you completely. I sat in silence, processing this. My family had been trying to warn me, and I'd pushed them away to protect Maya. Maya, who had been systematically ensuring I had no one to turn to but her. There's something else, Emma said gently. I probably shouldn't tell you this, but after everything that happened with David. What about David? Jake saw them together. Maya and David. At that new brewery on Division Street, about 2 months before your engagement ended. It didn't look like a casual conversation, Sarah. Jake wanted to tell you, but I talked him out of it. I thought maybe there was an innocent explanation. The room started spinning. 2 months before David broke up with me, he'd started acting distant, distracted. When I'd asked him about it, he'd said he was stressed about work. And Maya. Maya had been so supportive during that time, so concerned about the changes she was noticing in David's behavior toward me. She'd been planting seeds of doubt while actively betraying me. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Asterisk, I know you're upset, but you're not thinking clearly. We need to talk. This isn't you, Sarah. Asterisk. But she was wrong. This was finally me. That afternoon, I made a decision that would have been unthinkable 6 months earlier. I called Janet, my supervisor, and asked if we could meet privately. My hands were sweating as I sat across from her in her cluttered office, surrounded by case files and motivational posters about resilience. Janet, I need to ask you something, and I hope you'll be honest with me. Those complaints you received about my behavior, who exactly reported them? Janet shifted uncomfortably in her chair, her reading glasses sliding down her nose. Sarah, you know I can't discuss the specifics of. Was it Maya Chen? Maya Patel, I mean. Maya had kept her maiden name professionally, something that had always struck me as progressive. Now I wondered if it was just another way to obscure her tracks. The flash of recognition across Janet's face told me everything I needed to know. She said she was concerned about you, Janet said slowly. That you'd been drinking heavily since your breakup and making inappropriate comments about clients. She seemed genuinely worried, like she was struggling with whether to come forward. My stomach dropped. What exactly did she tell you? That you'd called Mrs. Rodriguez's son a lost cause during a home visit. That you'd shown up to the Morrison custody hearing smelling like alcohol. Janet leaned forward, studying my face. Sarah, I have to ask, was she lying? I've never said anything unprofessional about a client in my life. And you know I don't drink during the week, let alone before work. The words came out sharper than I intended. Janet, I've worked here for 5 years. Have you ever, even once, had concerns about my professionalism before Maya came to you? Janet was quiet for a long moment, and I could see her mentally reviewing our history. No, she admitted finally. That's part of why her report was so concerning. It seemed so out of character. Because it was completely fabricated. I pulled out my phone and showed Janet a screenshot of Maya's Instagram from the day of the Morrison hearing, the day I'd allegedly shown up drunk. Maya was tagged at SoulCycle at 9 a.m., the exact time I was supposed to be stumbling into court. She wasn't even worried about me, Janet. She was at her morning workout class, posting selfies. Janet stared at the phone screen, her expression shifting from confusion to something that looked like anger. Sarah, are you telling me that someone deliberately tried to sabotage your career? I'm telling you that my best friend of 20 years has been systematically destroying every good thing in my life, and I was too blind to see it. When I got home that evening, there were 17 missed calls from 4 different numbers. All Maya. The voicemails escalated from concerned, Sarah, people are saying you're telling lies about me, to frustrated, you're being completely irrational and you know it, to something that made my skin crawl, you can't just rewrite history because you're having a breakdown. But there was another message too, from a number I didn't recognize. A woman's voice, tentative and nervous. Hi, this is Jessica Torres. I got your number from Emma, I hope that's okay. I used to work with Maya at Henderson and Associates about 3 years ago. Emma mentioned you were having some issues with her. I probably shouldn't be calling, but there are things you should know. Things she did to me and others at the firm. Can you call me back? I think we need to talk. I stared at my phone, realizing that Maya's pattern of destruction might be bigger than I'd ever imagined. How many other lives had she derailed? How many other people had she left confused and questioning their own reality? My phone buzzed again. Another unknown number, asterisk stop poisoning people against me. You're sick, Sarah. You need help. Asterisk. But for the first time in months, I knew exactly how healthy I was becoming. I called Jessica Torres back at 7:30 p.m., my hands trembling as I dialed. When she answered, her voice was cautious but warm. Sarah? Thank you for calling me back. I wasn't sure you would. What did Maya do to you? Jessica let out a bitter laugh. Where do I start? I was a junior associate at Henderson and Associates when Maya joined as a paralegal. She seemed so helpful at first, always offering to stay late, volunteering for extra projects. I actually recommended her for a promotion after 6 months. My stomach clenched. This sounded familiar. But then weird things started happening. I'd prepared this huge brief for a major client, the Carlson Industries merger, and somehow the final version that got submitted had critical errors in it. Dates that were wrong, statutes that were cited incorrectly. My supervising partner, Richard Caldwell, was furious. Said it was the sloppiest work he'd ever seen from me. What kind of errors? The type that would be obvious to anyone with a paralegal certification. Anyone like Maya, who had access to my files and offered to proofread everything before submission. Jessica's voice hardened. But I couldn't prove it. Maya was so sympathetic, so concerned about how stressed I seemed. She suggested maybe I was working too many hours, that I should talk to Richard about reducing my caseload. The manipulation was textbook Maya, create the problem, then position herself as a caring friend offering solutions that would ultimately benefit her. It got worse from there. Clients started complaining that I'd been rude to them on phone calls, but I'd never spoken to half these people. My colleague Brett mentioned that someone had told him I was badmouthing the firm's partners at the holiday party, something I definitely never did. Every few weeks, there was some new incident that made me look incompetent or unprofessional. How long did this go on? 8 months. 8 months of feeling like I was losing my mind, like I was somehow sabotaging myself without realizing it. My work performance reviews went from excellent to needs improvement to serious concerns about judgment and reliability. I started seeing a therapist because I thought maybe I was having some kind of breakdown. I closed my eyes, recognizing the pattern so clearly now. The gaslighting, the systematic erosion of confidence and reputation. What finally made you realize it was Maya? Pure accident. I was working late one night, around 11 p.m., and I forgot my phone charger, so I went back to the office to get it. Maya was there, at her desk, logged into the firm's client database under my credentials. She was updating contact notes on the Patterson account, making it look like I'd had a hostile interaction with Mrs. Patterson earlier that day. An interaction that never happened. Did you confront her? I was so shocked I just stood there watching. She was typing things like client expressed dissatisfaction with S. Torres' handling of case, mentioned considering switching firms. When she finally noticed me, she didn't even look guilty. Just annoyed that I'd caught her. My blood ran cold. What did she say? That she was helping me. That my work had been so sloppy lately, she was trying to cover for me by managing client communications. She said she'd been protecting me for months, fixing my mistakes before the partners could see them. She actually seemed to believe she was doing me a favor. The twisted logic was so perfectly Maya, reframing her sabotage as protection, her cruelty as kindness. I confronted her the next day, told her I was going to report what I'd seen. That's when she showed me exactly who she really was. Jessica's voice dropped to almost a whisper. She said if I tried to expose her, she'd tell the partners I'd been stealing client files, accessing accounts I wasn't authorized for. She had emails, timestamps, documentation that would make it look like I was the one abusing the system. But you had proof she was using your login. Her word against mine. And by then, my reputation was already destroyed while hers was spotless. She positioned herself as the reliable one, the one who stayed late to fix problems. Who do you think they would have believed? I knew the answer. Maya had always been brilliant at playing the long game. I quit 2 weeks later. What happened to your career after that? Jessica sighed. I was out of work for 8 months. The legal community in Portland isn't that big, and somehow word got around that I'd had performance issues at Henderson and Associates. I finally had to move to Seattle and start over at a smaller firm for $30,000 less than I was making before. $30,000. Maya's manipulation had cost Jessica $30,000 a year, plus 8 months of unemployment, plus the emotional trauma of thinking she was losing her mind. The scope of the damage was staggering. Jessica, can I ask you something? Did Maya ever seem to enjoy it? The chaos she was creating? You know what's sick? I think she did. There was this one day when I was crying in the break room because another client had complained about me for something I'd never done, and Maya came in with tissues and chocolate. She was so comforting, so sympathetic. But I swear I caught this flash in her eyes, just for a second. Like she was trying not to smile. My skin crawled. I remembered that look. I'd seen it dozens of times over the years but had always dismissed it as my imagination. There's something else you should know, Jessica continued. After I quit, I heard through mutual connections that Maya got promoted to my old position within 6 weeks. Almost like she'd been angling for it all along. The pieces clicked into place with horrifying clarity. Maya hadn't been randomly destructive, she'd been strategic. Every move calculated to advance her own interests while tearing down potential competition. Sarah, can I ask what she did to you? I gave Jessica the abbreviated version: David, my job, my family relationships. With each detail, Jessica made small sounds of recognition, like she was checking items off a familiar list. The affair especially doesn't surprise me, she said when I finished. Maya went after my boyfriend too. Tom and I had been together for 2 years when she started working at the firm. Suddenly she's calling him when I was at work, asking for advice about legal stuff. Inviting herself along when we'd go out for drinks. Tom said she was just being friendly, that I was being paranoid. Did they sleep together? I don't think so. But she definitely planted seeds. Started telling Tom things about how stressed I was, how my work problems were making me unstable and paranoid. How she was worried I might be having mental health issues. By the time I quit Henderson and Associates, Tom was looking at me like I was a stranger. We broke up 3 months later. 2 relationships destroyed, 2 careers derailed, and those were just the cases I knew about. How many other people had Maya systematically dismantled? Jessica, do you know if there were others? Other people she targeted? I've wondered about that for 3 years. There was this woman, Rachel Kim, who worked in accounting. She got fired for allegedly falsifying expense reports right around the time Maya was really escalating things with me. And before me, there was another associate, Michael Santos, who had some kind of breakdown and took early retirement. But I never had proof of anything. I grabbed a pen and started writing down names. Rachel Kim. Michael Santos. A pattern of destruction stretching back years. Why are you helping me? I asked. You could have just stayed out of it. Jessica was quiet for a moment. Because I spent 2 years in therapy trying to convince myself that what happened to me was somehow my fault. That I really was incompetent, that Maya really was just trying to help. It wasn't until I met my current therapist that I learned the term workplace narcissistic abuse. Having a name for it saved my sanity. What did your therapist tell you? That people like Maya don't just stop. They find new targets and repeat the same patterns. And that the only way to protect yourself, and potentially protect others, is to document everything and refuse to engage with them. As if summoned by our conversation, my phone buzzed with yet another message from another unknown number. *I talked to Emma. She said you've been spreading lies about me to the family. This needs to stop, Sarah. You're embarrassing yourself. *. I screenshot the message and added it to my folder, which now contained 44 pieces of evidence. She's still contacting you, Jessica observed. Constantly. New numbers, social media accounts, even showed up at my apartment building last week. That's escalation. Maya doesn't like losing control, and cutting off contact is probably the first time anyone has ever set a boundary with her that actually stuck. Jessica's voice turned serious. Sarah, I need to tell you something else. After I quit, Maya tried to contact me for months. When I wouldn't respond, she started showing up places. My gym, my grocery store, my new job in Seattle. She told people I was mentally unstable, that she was worried about me. My blood went cold. She stalked you? For almost a year. I had to get a restraining order. The room felt like it was tilting. Maya wasn't just manipulative, she was genuinely dangerous. Do you still have the documentation? From the restraining order? Everything. Court filings, police reports, witness statements. Sarah, if she's escalating with you the way she did with me, you need to start thinking about legal protection. I looked at my phone, at the growing folder of screenshots, at the evidence of months of harassment. For the first time, the word stalking applied to my situation felt real and terrifying. Maya wasn't going to just let me go. She was just getting started. The restraining order paperwork sat on my kitchen table like a loaded gun. Jessica had emailed me copies of her documentation against Maya, and reading through the police reports made my hands shake. Subject approached petitioner's workplace multiple times despite being asked to leave. Subject told coworkers that petitioner was having a mental breakdown and needed intervention. Subject left 17 voicemails in one day, escalating from concern to threats *. The threats part made my stomach drop. In the final voicemail transcript, Maya had said, asterisk, you can't hide from reality forever, Jessica. I know where you live, I know where you work. You're going to have to face what you've done eventually. Asterisk. My phone had been quiet for exactly 4 hours, a record since I'd blocked her latest number. But the silence felt ominous rather than peaceful, like the eye of a hurricane. At 3:15 p.m., my doorbell rang. I looked through the peephole and saw a delivery driver holding a massive bouquet of white lilies, my favorite flowers, something I'd mentioned to Maya exactly once, 3 years ago at my grandmother's funeral. The card, written in Maya's familiar handwriting, said, asterisk, for your new beginning. Love always, your best friend. Asterisk. The manipulation was breathtaking. She'd found a way to force herself into my space while maintaining plausible deniability. If I complained, she could say she was just being thoughtful. But the message was clear, I can reach you anywhere, anytime. I threw the flowers directly into the garbage and called Dr. Chin. Sarah, I'm glad you called, Dr. Chin said when I explained about the flowers. I've been researching narcissistic abuse patterns since our last session. What Maya is doing has a name, it's called hoovering. Like a vacuum, she's trying to suck you back into the relationship. Jessica mentioned Maya stalked her for a year. That's unfortunately common. When narcissists lose their primary source of supply, which is what you were to Maya, they often become desperate and increasingly erratic. The flowers are a love bombing tactic. When that doesn't work, the behavior usually escalates. As if on cue, my phone buzzed. A Facebook message from Maya's mother, Linda, whom I'd always loved like a second mom, asterisk, Sarah honey, Maya is so worried about you. She says you won't return her calls and she's concerned you're having some kind of breakdown. Can you please just talk to her? She loves you so much. Asterisk. The secondary manipulation through family members felt like a punch to the gut. Maya had turned her own mother into a weapon. Dr. Chen, she's using her mom now. What do I do? Document it. Screenshot everything. And consider whether you want to tell Linda the truth about why you cut contact. I stared at my phone, imagining that conversation. Linda had known me since I was 8 years old. She'd driven me to soccer practice when my mom was working late, helped me with my college applications, celebrated my graduation. Maya had weaponized 20 years of genuine affection. But before I could decide how to respond, my work phone rang. It was Janet, and she sounded shaken. Sarah, I need to tell you something. Maya called the main office number an hour ago, asking to speak to me. When my secretary said I was in a meeting, she said it was an emergency regarding one of my employees' mental health. My vision went wide around the edges. What did she tell you? That you'd been calling her repeatedly, making threats against yourself and others. That your family was concerned you might hurt someone. Sarah, she was very convincing. She sounded genuinely terrified. The brilliance of the lie was staggering. Maya had flipped the script completely, now I was the unstable one harassing her. If I defended myself too vigorously, it would seem like proof of my alleged instability. Janet, I need you to know that I haven't contacted Maya once since March. I have documentation showing that she's been harassing me, not the other way around. I figured that might be the case. Sarah, in 5 years, I've never seen you even raise your voice. The person Maya described bore no resemblance to the employee I know. Relief flooded through me, followed immediately by terror. If Maya was willing to lie to my employer, what other institutions in my life was she targeting? My phone buzzed again. A text from my bank, asterisk, we've received a concern about potentially fraudulent activity on your account. Please call us at your earliest convenience. Asterisk. And another from my apartment building manager, asterisk, hi Sarah, someone called saying they were your sister and that you'd been in an accident. They were asking for your spare key. Can you confirm this was legitimate? Asterisk. Maya wasn't just escalating. She was launching a full-scale assault on every aspect of my life, and she was just getting started. The bank call was even worse than I'd imagined. Ms. Rodriguez, we received a call this morning from someone claiming to be your power of attorney, the fraud specialist, Mr. Patterson, explained. They said you'd been hospitalized after a mental health crisis and needed emergency access to your accounts to pay medical bills. They had your social security number, your mother's maiden name, and knew about your recent direct deposit from the county. My hands went numb. What kind of access did they want? To add themselves as an authorized user and transfer funds to cover immediate medical expenses. The caller was very emotional, said you were in intensive care and couldn't handle financial matters yourself. If our fraud protocols hadn't flagged the request for manual review, they might have succeeded. Maya knew all my security information. We'd helped each other set up accounts over the years, shared passwords, been each other's emergency contacts. What I thought was normal best friend intimacy had been Maya collecting ammunition for exactly this moment. Mr. Patterson, I need to change everything. All my passwords, security questions, authorized contacts. Everything. I'd recommend that, yes. Also, Ms. Rodriguez, the caller left a contact number. Would you like me to provide it for your records? I knew it would be another burner phone, but I took it down anyway. As soon as I hung up, I called my landlord directly. Oh, Sarah, thank goodness you're okay. Mrs. Kim sounded genuinely relieved. Your friend called this morning, crying, saying you'd been in a car accident and were unconscious at OHSU. She said your family was flying in from out of state and needed to get your medication from your apartment for the doctors. Mrs. Kim, I haven't been in any accident. That person was lying to try to get into my apartment. The silence stretched so long I thought the call had dropped. But she knew so much about you, honey. She knew you drive a blue Honda, knew you work for the county, knew about your cat Machi. She even knew that you'd been having relationship problems lately. Of course Maya knew about Machi, she'd helped me pick him out from the shelter 2 years ago. And my relationship problems were information she'd gathered while actively creating them. Mrs. Kim, that person has been harassing me for months. Please don't give anyone access to my apartment, no matter what they say. If there's ever a real emergency, the hospital or police will contact you directly with proper documentation. After I hung up, I sat staring at my phone, trying to calculate how many other parts of my life Maya could infiltrate. She knew where I banked, where I worked, where I lived, where I shopped. She knew my doctor's name, my dentist, my veterinarian. She knew my family members' names and phone numbers, my colleagues, my neighbors. 20 years of friendship had given her a complete blueprint for destroying me. My laptop chimed with an email notification. Dr. Chen's office. Asterisk, we received a concerning call today from someone claiming to be your emergency contact. Please call us as soon as possible to discuss your treatment plan and safety protocols. Asterisk. I called Dr. Chen's office immediately, my pulse hammering in my throat. Sarah, I'm so glad you called, the receptionist, Monica, said. A woman called claiming to be your sister Emma, saying you'd made statements about wanting to harm yourself and that your family was worried about your current treatment. She was asking about your therapy schedule and whether we thought you needed to be hospitalized. Monica, that wasn't my sister. My actual sister doesn't even know I'm in therapy. I figured something was off. She couldn't answer basic questions about your family, and when I asked for her contact information to verify, she became hostile and hung up. Maya was systematically contacting every professional in my life, crafting a narrative of mental instability that would follow me everywhere. She was trying to turn my support system into a surveillance network, and my legitimate need for help into evidence of my supposed breakdown. But this time, she'd made a crucial mistake. I finally had witnesses who could see through her lies. The next morning brought a new horror. My work email had been hacked. I discovered it when Janet called me at 6:47 a.m., her voice tight with barely controlled anger. Sarah, I need you in my office immediately. We had a situation. 20 minutes later, I sat across from Janet and HR Director Patricia Wells, watching them scroll through emails that had been sent from my work account at 2:23 a.m. Emails I'd never written, to clients I hadn't communicated with in months. This message to the Hendricks family, Patricia said, adjusting her glasses as she read from her laptop screen. You allegedly wrote, your son's behavioral issues are clearly the result of your incompetent parenting. I'm recommending immediate removal from your home. Sarah, did you send this? My stomach lurched. The Hendricks case had been closed for 6 weeks, a successful family reunification that I'd worked on for 8 months. No. Patricia, I would never write anything like that to a client family. Ever. There are 12 similar emails, Janet said, her voice strained. All sent between 2 a.m. and 3 a.m. last night, all completely contrary to your case recommendations, all unprofessional to the point of being actionable. The Morrison family's email suggests their daughter would be better off in foster care than with her pathetic excuse for parents. I felt sick. These weren't just cruel messages, they were contradicting months of my actual work, undermining cases where I'd successfully helped families stay together. Someone hacked my account, I said. This is part of the harassment I told you about. Maya has all my passwords. Patricia leaned forward. Sarah, these emails reference specific case details that aren't in our general files. Information from your personal case notes, assessment reports you'd written. How would an outsider access that level of detail? The answer hit me like a physical blow. She was there. Maya came to the office with me dozens of times over the years. She'd wait while I finished paperwork, sit next to me while I wrote reports. She always said she found my work fascinating, wanted to understand how I helped families. I thought she was being supportive. She'd been memorizing confidential case information for future use. There's more, Janet said reluctantly. 3 families have already called this morning. The Martinez family is threatening to sue the department. Mrs. Hendricks was crying so hard on the phone I could barely understand her. 5 years of reputation building, destroyed in one night. Families I genuinely helped now believed I'd secretly despised them all along. We have to suspend you pending investigation, Patricia said. I'm sorry, Sarah, but with this many client complaints, we have no choice. I handed over my badge and keycard with trembling hands, walking out of the building where I'd worked for 5 years like a criminal. In the parking lot, I called my lawyer, something I never thought I'd need at 28. David Nakamura's voice was calm but serious as I explained the situation. Sarah, this goes beyond harassment. Hacking into work accounts, impersonating you to damage client relationships, these are felonies. We need to file a police report immediately. Will it help? She's been so careful to maintain plausible deniability. The bank fraud attempt, the email hack, the identity theft with your apartment manager, that's a pattern of criminal behavior with multiple witnesses. And those emails were sent from your work computer, which means there will be digital forensics evidence. For the first time in days, I felt a spark of hope. Maya's escalation might finally be providing the proof I needed. At 11:30 a.m., I walked into the Portland Police Bureau's downtown precinct with a thick folder of evidence and David by my side. Detective Sarah Chen, no relation to my therapist, listened patiently as I laid out months of harassment, systematic sabotage, and escalating criminal behavior. This is one of the most comprehensive stalking cases I've seen, Detective Chen said, flipping through my documentation. Your friend Jessica Torres did you a huge favor by sharing her restraining order file. It establishes a clear pattern of behavior. She paused at a screenshot from the night before, another message from Maya's endless supply of burner phones. Asterisk, you can't run from the truth forever, Sarah. Everyone will see who you really are. Asterisk. Ms. Rodriguez, I want you to know, you did everything right. The documentation, the witnesses, the refusal to engage. These cases are usually he said she said situations, but you built a criminal case. As we filed the official report, my phone buzzed with a call from an unknown number. I let it go to voicemail, then played the message for Detective Chen. Maya's voice, sweet and concerned. Sarah, honey, I heard about what happened at work. I'm so worried about you. Please let me help. I know you're not thinking clearly right now, but I'm here for you. I'll always be here. Detective Chen raised her eyebrows. She's calling to comfort you about a situation she created. That's textbook predatory behavior. Maya had made her first real mistake. She'd gotten greedy, escalated too fast, left too much evidence. And now she was about to discover that I wasn't the same person she'd been manipulating for 20 years. I was done being her victim. The arrest warrant was issued at 3:47 p.m. on a Thursday. Detective Chen called me personally to deliver the news. We got her, Sarah. Maya Patel was taken into custody an hour ago at her workplace. The digital forensics team found definitive proof that your work email was accessed from her home IP address. I sat down hard in my kitchen chair, suddenly lightheaded. After months of feeling powerless, the idea that Maya was actually facing consequences seemed surreal. What exactly did they find? Metadata from the malicious emails traced directly to her laptop. She was sloppy, didn't use a VPN or attempt to mask her location. We also found draft emails on her personal computer, including several she never sent that were even worse than the ones that went out. My hands were shaking as I processed this. Maya had been writing cruel messages to my clients and saving them, probably savoring the power of knowing she could destroy my relationships whenever she chose. There's something else, Detective Chen continued. When we searched her apartment, we found what I can only describe as a shrine to your friendship. Photos of you two going back 20 years, printouts of your social media posts, copies of your work evaluations that she somehow obtained. Sarah, she had a detailed timeline of your relationship with David, including photos of them together that date back over a year. The scope of Maya's obsession hit me like a physical blow. A year? But she told me she barely knew him. The photos suggest otherwise. There are dozens of them at restaurants, bars, even what looks like a weekend trip to the coast. She documented their entire relationship while pretending to comfort you about your failing engagement. I felt nauseous imagining Maya carefully cataloging her betrayal, probably planning exactly when and how to detonate my life for maximum damage. Detective Chen, what are the charges? Identity theft, computer fraud, harassment, and stalking. The DA thinks we can make a strong case for criminal impersonation as well, given the incidents with your bank and landlord. She's looking at serious felony time. For the first time in months, I could take a full breath. Maya couldn't hurt me from jail. But my relief was short-lived. At 6:23 p.m., my doorbell rang. Through the peephole, I saw Linda Patel, Maya's mother, standing in the hallway with tears streaming down her face. Sarah, sweetheart, please. I need to talk to you. Her voice was muffled through the door, but I could hear the desperation. I know you're in there. Please. Against my better judgment, I opened the door. Linda looked like she'd aged 5 years in the past week. Her usually perfect hair was disheveled, her makeup smeared. Linda, I'm sorry you're going through this, but... She's my baby, Sarah. Linda's voice broke. Whatever happened between you two, surely it doesn't deserve this. Maya's been arrested. They're saying she might go to prison. The manipulation was breathtaking, even secondhand. Maya had turned her own mother into another weapon, another way to make me feel guilty for protecting myself. Linda, did Maya tell you what she did? The email she sent, the lies she told about me? She said you've been having problems since David left, that you're blaming her for things that aren't her fault. Sarah, I've known you since you were 8 years old. You're like a second daughter to me. This isn't who you are. I realized with horror that Maya had been preparing Linda for this moment, probably for months. Planting seeds about my supposed mental breakdown, my alleged tendency to blame others for my problems. Linda, Maya has been sabotaging my life for years. She slept with my fiancé, tried to get me fired, hacked my work email to send cruel messages to my clients. She's been stalking me. Linda's face crumpled. No. No, that's not possible. Maya loves you. She's always loved you. When you two were children, she used to say you were the sister she'd always wanted. But as she spoke, I saw something flicker across her expression, a moment of doubt, of recognition. Linda, in your heart, do you really believe Maya is incapable of this? The silence stretched between us, and I watched 20 years of motherly denial crack just slightly. She's always been intense about friendships, Linda admitted quietly. Even as a child, she didn't like to share. If you played with other kids at birthday parties, she would find ways to interrupt, to pull you away. My heart broke for Linda, watching her confront the possibility that her daughter was not the person she'd believed her to be. I need to ask you something, I said gently. Has Maya ever tried to turn you against your friends? Made you doubt people who cared about you? Linda's face went white. And I knew Maya's final victim was about to be her own mother. The revelation in Linda's eyes was heartbreaking to watch. She stood in my doorway, her hands trembling as 28 years of motherhood collided with the truth she'd probably been avoiding for decades. Your friend Carol, Linda whispered, more to herself than to me. Maya said Carol was talking behind my back at book club, spreading rumors about our family's finances. I stopped speaking to her after that. My chest tightened. Carol had been Linda's closest friend for 15 years. And before that, it was Susan from your yoga class, Linda continued, her voice getting smaller. Maya said she saw Susan's husband with another woman and that Susan was probably taking her anger out on you by excluding you from social events. I believed her because why would my daughter lie about something like that? I watched Linda's face crumble as she mentally reviewed years of lost friendships, of isolation that Maya had systematically orchestrated. The same pattern she'd used on me, she'd been using on her own mother. Linda, when was the last time you spent time with friends without Maya's approval? She opened her mouth to answer, then closed it. Her silence was answer enough. She told me you needed me to focus on family right now, Linda said, tears flowing freely. Said your problems were so serious that I shouldn't be wasting time with book clubs and yoga classes when you needed support. I thought I was being a good friend by putting you first. The manipulation was breathtaking in its scope. Maya had isolated her own mother, made Linda dependent on her for social connection and emotional support, all while positioning it as devotion to me. I'd been Maya's excuse to destroy Linda's entire social network. How long has it been since you had close friends besides Maya and me? Linda thought for a long moment. 3 years? Maybe 4? Maya said people our age just grow apart naturally, that real family bonds are more important than casual friendships. I felt sick. Maya hadn't just been destroying my life, she'd been methodically dismantling her mother's support system for years, ensuring Linda would have no one to turn to when Maya inevitably turned on her too. Linda, I think Maya has been isolating you the same way she isolated me. The difference is, I was able to get away from her. You're her mother. Something shifted in Linda's expression, a flash of anger replacing the confusion and grief. She called me yesterday, Linda said slowly, from jail. Asked me to mortgage the house to pay for a better lawyer. Said if I really loved her, I wouldn't let her suffer for Sarah's lies. When I hesitated, she said maybe I was getting too old to think clearly, that she'd always known I loved your family more than her. The cruelty took my breath away. Even from jail, facing felony charges, Maya was still manipulating and emotionally abusing her own mother. She's done this before, hasn't she? Made you choose between her and other people in your life? Linda nodded miserably. Maya's father. When we divorced 8 years ago, Maya said he'd been talking badly about her to his girlfriend, that he was trying to turn his new family against us. She made me choose, him or her. I chose her because I thought a mother should always choose her child. But now you're wondering if he was really the problem? David, Maya's father, he tried to warn me about her behavior years ago. Said she was manipulative, that she turned his girlfriend's teenage daughter against her own mother with lies and triangulation. I accused him of being jealous of our close relationship. I defended Maya and cut him off completely. Linda looked up at me with haunted eyes. Sarah, what if everything she told me about him was a lie? What if I destroyed my marriage to protect a daughter who was actually the abuser? My phone buzzed with a text from Detective Chen. Maya posted bail an hour ago. Please be extra cautious and call if you see any sign of her. Linda saw me reading and her face went pale. She's out? Her bail was set at $50,000. Did you? Linda's expression crumbled. She called crying, said the other inmates were threatening her, that she wouldn't survive even one night. I used the house as collateral. She looked up at me with growing horror. Oh God, what have I done? I just gave her exactly what she needed to come after you again. As if summoned by our conversation, my phone rang. Maya's number, her real number, the one I'd known by heart for 20 years. Linda and I stared at each other as Maya's voice filled my hallway through the speaker. Sarah, I know you're there with my mother. I know you're trying to poison her against me just like you poisoned everyone else. But blood is thicker than water, and she'll always choose me in the end. We both know that. The call ended, and Linda looked like she might collapse. Maya wasn't done with either of us. She was just getting started. The next 48 hours felt like living in a psychological thriller. Maya didn't contact me directly, but her presence was everywhere. A car that looked like hers parked across from my building, hang-up calls from blocked numbers, even a fake Yelp review of my neighborhood coffee shop warning people about an unstable woman who harasses other customers. Linda had gone home shaken and promised to call me if Maya tried to contact her. But at 2:15 a.m. on Saturday, my phone rang with Linda's number. She's here, Linda whispered, so quietly I could barely hear her. She used her key to get in. She's downstairs making noise in the kitchen like nothing happened. Sarah, I'm scared. Linda, call 911 right now. She's violating her bail conditions by intimidating a witness. I can't call the police on my own daughter. What if? The line went dead. I called Detective Chen immediately, but it went straight to voicemail. The weekend duty officer took my report but said they couldn't do a wellness check without Linda's direct request. Maya knew exactly what she was doing, using Linda's maternal love as a shield against consequences. At 7:30 a.m., Linda called back from what sounded like a moving car. I left. I couldn't stay there with her. Sarah, she spent the entire night going through photo albums, talking about your childhood like nothing had changed. She made breakfast for both of us and kept saying how everything would go back to normal once you got the help you needed. The delusion was chilling. Even after being arrested, even facing felony charges, Maya genuinely believed she could manipulate her way back to controlling my life. Where are you now? A hotel near the airport. I used cash so she can't track my credit card. Linda's voice was hollow, like she was in shock. Sarah, I found something in her room. A notebook where she'd been planning everything. Your breakup with David, your problems at work. She wrote it all down like a project timeline. My blood went cold. What kind of timeline? Dates going back 2 years. March 15th, suggested S&D try couples counseling, planted seeds about D's commitment issues. May 22nd, told D that S seemed unhappy, offered to listen if he needed someone to talk to. Sarah, she orchestrated your entire relationship falling apart. I grabbed a pen, writing down the dates Linda recited. Maya had documented her own crimes, probably so she could relive her successes. There's more, Linda continued. She had printouts of your work schedule, your therapy appointments, even your grocery shopping receipts. She's been following you for months, documenting your entire routine. The stalking was far more extensive than I'd realized. Maya hadn't just been harassing me remotely, she'd been physically surveilling my life, learning my patterns, preparing for something bigger. Linda, you need to bring that notebook to Detective Chen immediately. It's evidence. I already took pictures of every page. I'm texting them to you now. My phone started buzzing with incoming messages, photo after photo of Maya's handwritten plans to destroy my life. One entry from just 2 weeks ago made my stomach drop. S's lease expires in October. Research ways to interfere with rental applications. Maya had been planning to make me homeless. But the final entry, dated the day before her arrest, was the most terrifying. If S won't come back willingly, more drastic measures may be necessary. She needs to understand that some friendships are forever. I called Detective Chen again, this time reaching her directly. Maya violated her bail conditions and we have evidence she's planning to escalate further. I'm issuing a warrant for her immediate arrest. Sarah, that notebook suggests she's moving toward more serious crimes. Don't go anywhere alone, and call 911 the second you see her. At 11:42 a.m., my doorbell rang. Through the peephole, I saw David, my ex-fiancé, standing in the hallway looking nervous and guilty. Against every instinct, I opened the door with the chain still latched. Sarah, I need to tell you something about Maya, he said quickly. Something I should have told you a year ago. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely keep the door steady on its chain. David stood in my hallway looking like he'd aged 5 years, dark circles under his eyes and stubble covering his usually clean-shaven face. Sarah, please. I know you probably never want to see me again, but Maya, she's been calling me. 23 times since yesterday. She's saying things that are scaring me. What kind of things? I kept my voice steady, though my heart was hammering against my ribs. David ran his hands through his hair, a gesture I'd once found endearing and now just found pathetic. She's claiming you've been stalking her, that you're having some kind of breakdown. But Sarah, the things she knows about you, your daily routine, your therapy schedule, where you buy groceries, she couldn't know that stuff unless she'd been following you. Did you give her that information? Some of it, he admitted, his voice barely above a whisper. Early on, when I first started talking to her. She seemed so concerned about you, said you'd been acting strange and she was worried. I thought I was helping. The betrayal hit me fresh, even though I'd known about their affair for months. How long, David? How long were you feeding her information about me? The whole last year of our relationship. His face crumpled. Sarah, I need you to understand, she made it seem like caring about you. She'd say things like, Sarah seemed really stressed when she left for work today. Did she mention anything to you? Or, I'm worried Sarah's not eating enough. What did you two have for dinner last night? I closed my eyes, imagining Maya carefully extracting details about my life from the person who was supposed to protect me. Every intimate detail of my daily routine, my moods, my vulnerabilities, David had handed it all over while thinking he was being a caring partner. She played us both, David continued. Made me think I was helping you by talking to her, made you think I was pulling away naturally. Sarah, the night I broke up with you? She called me an hour before, crying, saying she'd seen you kissing someone at Murphy's pub. She said you'd probably deny it because you were confused, but that I deserved better than someone who was already cheating. I've never even been to Murphy's pub. I know that now. But she was so convincing, so detailed. She said you were wearing that blue dress I bought you for your birthday, that you told the guy you were having problems with your fiancé. Every detail lined up with things only someone close to you would know. Maya had used David's own gifts to me as props in her elaborate lies. The blue dress he bought me for my 27th birthday, she'd probably seen it hanging in my closet during one of her many visits to my apartment. David, why are you telling me this now? Because she called me this morning from her mother's house, and Sarah, she's completely lost it. She kept talking about how you two are meant to be together forever, that no one understands your friendship like she does. She said she has a plan to fix everything and that soon you'll remember who really loves you. My blood went cold. What kind of plan? She wouldn't say exactly, but she mentioned your new therapist, Dr. Chen. Said something about how therapists can be convinced that their patients are dangerous to themselves if the right people express concern. Sarah, I think she's going to try to have you committed. The room started spinning. If Maya could convince mental health professionals that I was suicidal or dangerous, she could have me involuntarily hospitalized. And once I was locked up, unable to defend myself or maintain my support systems, she'd have unlimited access to control the narrative about my mental state. There's something else, David said, his voice dropping to almost a whisper. She has a key to your apartment. She made a copy of yours months ago when you left your purse at her place. She's been inside your home, Sarah. Multiple times. I thought about all the times I'd come home feeling like something was slightly off. A book moved on my coffee table, my coffee mug in the dishwasher when I was sure I'd left it in the sink, Machi seeming nervous for no apparent reason. Maya hadn't just been stalking me from a distance. She'd been living a parallel life inside my home, going through my things, probably reading my journal, maybe even watching me sleep. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Asterisk, having a nice chat with David? You always did like to collect people to lie for you. Don't worry, I'll be home soon. We have so much to catch up on. Asterisk. David saw me reading and went pale. She's watching us right now, isn't she? I looked toward my living room window, suddenly aware that Maya could be anywhere, the building across the street, the coffee shop downstairs, maybe even inside my building already. David, I need you to leave. Now. And whatever she told you to say to me, whatever she's planning, don't help her. Please. Sarah, I'm sorry. For all of it. I should have seen what she was doing. After he left, I called Detective Chen, but it went straight to voicemail again. Then I tried Dr. Chen's emergency line. Sarah, I was just about to call you, Dr. Chen said when she answered. I've received 3 calls today from people claiming to be concerned about your mental state. Your sister Emma, your ex-fiancé David, and someone claiming to be your roommate Maya. They all used slightly different stories, but the message was the same, that you've been making threats and they're worried you might hurt yourself. Maya was already executing her plan to have me committed. And I was running out of time to stop her. The emergency psychiatric hold papers arrived by courier at 4:17 p.m. on a Tuesday, delivered with the same casual efficiency as a pizza order. The official letterhead made my hands shake as I read the clinical language, based on multiple credible reports of concerning behavior and statements indicating potential harm to self or others. Maya had done it. She'd actually convinced mental health professionals that I was dangerous. The evaluation was scheduled for Thursday morning at 9 a.m. If Dr. Martinez, the court-appointed psychiatrist, determined I was a threat, I could be held for up to 72 hours. 3 days where Maya would have complete control over the narrative about my mental state, 3 days to prove to everyone that she'd been right about my breakdown all along. I called Dr. Chen immediately, but her receptionist Monica sounded strained and formal. Dr. Chen has been advised by her medical board supervisor to suspend your treatment pending the emergency evaluation. I'm sorry, Sarah. Maya had managed to cut me off from my primary mental health advocate right when I needed her most. My phone rang at 4:23 p.m. Linda, calling from her hotel room, her voice shaking with rage. She used my address. Maya filed those papers using my home address, claiming she's been living there and observing your behavior. Sarah, she forged my signature on a witness statement. What did the statement say? That I've watched you become increasingly paranoid and aggressive over the past month. That you've made statements about people deserving to pay for crossing you. That I'm afraid you might hurt yourself or others if you don't get immediate help. Linda's voice broke. She made me sound like a concerned friend instead of her mother. The psychiatrist has no idea about our family connection or her history of manipulation. The brilliance of Maya's strategy was breathtaking. By using Linda as a witness, she created the appearance of an objective third party confirming her lies. The court psychiatrist would see reports from my sister Emma, my ex-fiancé David, and my concerned friend Linda, not knowing that Maya had manipulated or impersonated all 3. Linda, can you testify that Maya forged your signature? I'm driving back to Portland right now. I've already called Detective Chen and told her what Maya did. But Sarah, the detective said even if they arrest her again, it might not stop the psychiatric evaluation. The court takes these reports seriously. At 5:45 p.m., my building's fire alarm went off. As residents filed out onto the sidewalk, I spotted Maya immediately, standing across the street with a cell phone, recording everything. When our eyes met, she smiled and waved like we were old friends running into each other at the grocery store. The fire department found nothing wrong with the alarm system. Probably a malfunction, the captain told our building manager. These older systems act up sometimes. But I knew Maya had found a way to trigger it. She wanted footage of me looking paranoid and suspicious, probably to show the court psychiatrist as evidence of my deteriorating mental state. Every reaction she could provoke from me became ammunition for her narrative. My neighbor Mrs. Patterson approached as we waited to go back inside. Sarah, dear, someone called me yesterday asking about your behavior. Said they were from social services, checking on your wellness. They knew an awful lot about you, your work schedule, your cat, even that you've been having relationship troubles. Maya wasn't just building a case against me with mental health professionals. She was systematically contacting everyone in my building, my neighborhood, probably my entire life, creating a web of concerned citizens who would corroborate her story about my supposed breakdown. At 11:30 p.m., Detective Chen finally called me back. Sarah, we arrested Maya 2 hours ago for forgery and harassment. But there's something you need to know about tomorrow's evaluation. She's hired a lawyer, and they're claiming you've been harassing her family and making threats. They have what appears to be documentation. What kind of documentation? Text messages, voicemails, even a recording of you allegedly threatening her mother. Sarah, I know this is manufactured evidence, but it's convincing enough to make the psychiatric evaluation necessary. You need to be prepared to defend yourself tomorrow. I hung up and stared at my reflection in my dark apartment window, finally understanding the true scope of Maya's plan. She hadn't just been trying to control me. She'd been systematically building a case to have me declared mentally incompetent, probably for months. And tomorrow morning, I'd have to convince a stranger that my entire life wasn't an elaborate delusion. The psychiatric evaluation was scheduled in a sterile conference room that smelled like disinfectant and broken dreams. Dr. Martinez sat across from me with a thick file of Maya's fabricated evidence, his expression professionally neutral but clearly skeptical of my version of events. Ms. Rodriguez, I have several concerning reports here, he began, adjusting his wire-rimmed glasses. Your friend Maya Chen has provided extensive documentation of your alleged threats and erratic behavior. She seems genuinely frightened of you. My heart sank as he opened the file. Maya had managed to get herself listed as Maya Chen on all the official paperwork, using her married name instead of Patel to obscure the connection to Linda and make herself seem like an objective witness rather than someone with her own criminal charges pending. Dr. Martinez, Maya is the one who's been stalking and harassing me for months. She's currently facing felony charges for identity theft and computer fraud. Detective Sarah Chen can verify. I'm aware of Ms. Chen's legal troubles, he interrupted. However, the timeline in these reports suggests your alleged harassment of her began before her supposed crimes against you. According to this documentation, you've been calling her workplace, showing up at her home uninvited, and making threatening statements since early February. He slid a printed email across the table. It appeared to be from my personal account, sent to Maya's supervisor at Henderson and Associates. * Maya Patel is a pathological liar and a criminal. She doesn't deserve her job or her life. Someone needs to make her pay for what she's done to innocent people. I never sent that email, I said, but my voice sounded weak even to my own ears. The metadata shows it originated from your IP address, Dr. Martinez replied. And there are phone records showing 17 calls from your number to Ms. Chen's workplace on March 8 alone. Maya had been busy during her brief time out on bail. She'd clearly hacked my email again and somehow spoofed my phone number to create a false trail of harassment. The woman who'd spent months calling me from dozens of burner phones had manufactured evidence that I was the one making obsessive contact. Dr. Martinez, I have documentation proving Maya has been harassing me. Screenshots of her messages, witness statements. Yes, I've reviewed your folder as well. However, Ms. Chen claims those messages were actually sent by you using her phone numbers, which you allegedly obtained through stalking. She says you've been impersonating her to make yourself look like the victim. The reversal was so complete, so perfectly executed, that for a moment I wondered if I was losing my mind. Maya had flipped every piece of evidence against her into evidence against me. My documentation of her harassment now looked like elaborate fabrication by an unstable person trying to justify their own criminal behavior. There's also this recording, Dr. Martinez continued, producing a small digital device. Ms. Chen's mother provided this yesterday. It's allegedly you threatening her daughter. He pressed play, and my own voice filled the room. Maya has destroyed everything good in my life. She deserves everything that's coming to her. I won't stop until she pays for what she's done. I stared at the recorder in horror. The voice was definitely mine, but I'd never said those words. Maya must have compiled audio from our phone conversations over the years, digitally editing my voice into threatening statements. That's not real, I whispered. She manipulated the audio. Dr. Martinez made a note in his file. Ms. Rodriguez, denial of clear evidence is itself a concerning symptom. Combined with the paranoid ideation evident in your claims about elaborate conspiracies. It's not paranoid if it's actually happening. The moment the words left my mouth, I knew I'd made a mistake. Dr. Martinez's eyebrows raised slightly, and he wrote something else in his notes. Maya had maneuvered me into the perfect trap. Every true thing I said sounded like a delusion, and every piece of real evidence looked like the fabrication of an unhinged mind. She wasn't just trying to have me committed. She was trying to make me actually go insane. The moment that saved my life came at 2:34 p.m., right when Dr. Martinez was reaching for what I was certain would be commitment papers. My phone buzzed with an incoming call from Detective Chan, and Dr. Martinez gestured for me to answer it on speaker. Sarah, we just arrested Maya again. This time for evidence tampering and witness intimidation. Detective Chan's voice was crisp, professional. Dr. Martinez, I understand you're conducting an evaluation. There are some things you need to know about your witness. Detective, I'm not sure this is appropriate. Maya Patel confessed 20 minutes ago. Full confession to fabricating evidence, hacking Ms. Rodriguez's accounts, and creating fake audio recordings. She broke down when we showed her the digital forensics report proving the voice recordings were spliced together from different phone conversations. I watched Dr. Martinez's face change as Detective Chen continued. We also have Maya's laptop, which contains detailed plans to have Ms. Rodriguez committed using fraudulent psychiatric reports. There are over 400 screenshots of Ms. Rodriguez's private messages, work emails, and personal photos obtained illegally. Maya had been planning this frame job for 8 months. Dr. Martinez slowly closed my file. Detective, are you telling me that all the evidence against Ms. Rodriguez was fabricated? Every single piece. Maya Patel is a serial manipulator with a documented history of destroying people's lives. Ms. Rodriguez isn't her first victim. We've identified at least 6 others over the past decade. She's being charged with 12 felonies. The relief that flooded through me was so intense I started crying right there in the sterile conference room. 3 months later, Maya was sentenced to 4 years in state prison. The judge called her crimes a calculated campaign of psychological terrorism and noted that her complete lack of remorse indicated she would likely reoffend if given the chance. But the real moment I realized cutting her off had saved my life came 6 months after her sentencing, when I was sitting in my new apartment, the one Maya had never seen, could never contaminate with her presence, reading a letter from Jessica Torres. Sarah, I wanted you to know that 3 more of Maya's victims have come forward since the trial. We're all in therapy now, working through what she did to us. But more importantly, we're all rebuilding our lives. I got promoted to senior associate last month, and I'm dating someone wonderful whom Maya never met and can't poison with lies. You saved all of us by having the courage to fight back. That evening, I called Emma for our weekly sister dinner, something that had become a cherished tradition in my Maya-free life. As I walked to the restaurant, I passed a woman about Maya's age screaming at someone on her phone, her voice sharp with manipulation and false victimhood. 2 years ago, I would have felt a familiar knot of anxiety, wondering if somehow Maya had been released early. But now, I just kept walking. Maya no longer had any power over my nervous system. Her voice was just noise now, her manipulation tactics as obvious as a children's magic trick. I realized then that cutting Maya off hadn't just saved me from her next scheme or her eventual escalation to physical violence, though Linda later found journals suggesting that had been Maya's plan. It had saved me from spending the rest of my life as a shell of myself, isolated and doubting my own reality, slowly disappearing while Maya consumed everything that made me who I was. The woman I am now, the one with genuine friends, a thriving career, and the ability to trust my own perceptions, wouldn't exist if I hadn't finally walked away. Some people are just poison, and the only cure is distance.